Yes, team. Welcome to another episode of the Total Mental Performance Podcast. Today we have Luke Turner. I bumped into Luke at a lunch at Neil Shoney's event up in Scotland. And I do this a lot. I see someone, I think, that seems like a very cool dude, and I think we're going to have a very cool conversation. So I invited him onto the podcast. He was like, yep, get on the train up to Manchester. And actually what's interesting is we've had a bit of a nightmare with the podcast this morning. We've had to... The studio we booked for the whole day didn't work, and then we've pivoted over to the club in Manchester. So I'm giving a big shout out to Stefan. Stefan, mate, thank you so much for accommodating us for the day. And Luke was absolutely golden in our last minute pivot. Luke, welcome to the Total Mental Performance Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So intro yourself to our audience.
Yeah, so my name's Luke Turner. I'm a 28-year-old entrepreneur. You just asked me about the 3 words you would use to explain yourself. But I would say, to give people a bit of insight into myself, I'm somebody who, for a lot of years, I've just felt that I've got a lot more to give. And over the last, I'd say 5 years, I've really not just worked on like myself from a personal development aspect, but found a real passion in developing other people. And, you know, even you just mentioned in there in the intro about connecting last year, it's finding people that you connect with and that you see that you can get a lot of value from, but that you can also contribute and provide a lot of value for them. So, like I said, I'm a gym owner. I have been for coming up to nearly a decade now. I started from being dissatisfied with just how the conventional way of gyms run, and people just coming into a normal gym and vanishing after a few weeks and then returning back a year later. And I decided to take a leap after working out as a personal trainer and decided to open my own gym with just the intention of running some one-to-one personal training sessions, doing some boot camps, some classes, investing in some spin bikes. And then as time went on, started to see the vision unfold. COVID-19 happened, which was a massive opportunity for me to just take my foot off the gas and go, what did I want to do? Didn't really know what move to make next. I wanted to build a team. This was just me and myself at this point. So I decided to take a leap and move location, and from there build from the ground up once again, and develop what is now T2 Fit. So gym owner, athlete-ish. I like to go back to my days of wanting to become a professional football player, be in tip-top shape, both physically and mentally. I'm a partner. I'm a dad of 2 girls. And that's about it.
Cool. So you've built the gym business.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier that you have another company that invests in properties, and you're also working on another consultancy business as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who don't know, I've got a real passion for business, and as I had my identity wrapped around football from the age of 6 years old, and the goal to become a professional football player never planned out, my identity had to shift to becoming business owner. And I was then wrapped around this fitness guy, and everything in my business was around Luke being the guy who helped people on the gym floor, got people great results, created amazing experiences and services, to then come into a point of where I've had to evolve once more and come away from being just a fitness guy to being more of the business leader and operating the team without having such a direct impact on the gym floor, but being able to lead through other people, which has been one of the most powerful skills I've had to develop, and I'm continuously trying to develop to this day. So up until the beginning of this year, I decided to go pro with what I see as being the vision for the next phase of Luke, the new identity, which is building a media company, LT Media Group, which is designed around me being able to show what we've been able to do inside of the business through many different pillars, from leadership, business development, decision making, and just help a lot of other founders, whether they're in the gym space, online coaches, or individuals who have businesses as a whole. I just see being able to provide a lot more value to that individual now. And it's the stuff that lights me up. We spoke a little bit earlier on at breakfast just about waking up in the morning and knowing that what you're getting up for, like, I wouldn't even need to be paid, and I would love what I was doing for that day. Just getting paid is a bonus. Yeah. So bringing Tom, my creative director, on board has been massive to help cultivate the media company and grow that to a point of where I can share my experiences, my knowledge, know-how, and provide a lot of value for individuals out there who are once in a very similar position to me. I think probably similar to you, Kieran, you talk to the person that you once was. And that's the point of these podcasts and, your coaching program. You're helping people break through beliefs, barriers, ceilings that you once were at. It makes it so much easier for you to communicate because, you can speak to the person of where they are because you can take yourself back to that five-year younger you. So, yeah.
Speaking to you earlier at breakfast, what I really picked up was this love for developing people and management and the way in which you look at an individual and the way in which you want to help them get to that next league and get that next level. Have you always been that way, or did that come a little bit later? Obviously, when you're a coach, you're always developing people anyway. But more on the business end, like where did that start? Because there was a clear shift at some point where you went, right, it's actually the business development of people that I prefer.
Yeah,
coaching.
You know what? I can take you back to around 2015, 2016 when I was working in a commercial gym. And this is when I really realized that what I was doing couldn't last no longer. And I'll never forget the manager that I had at the time. She kept getting on to me about uniform. And it's funny because I'm now that person around standards. So I get where she was coming from there. There was like branded shorts that I wouldn't wear and I'd wear Nike ones instead. Still on brand, still coloured wise and everything like that. And she would just nitpick at me. That was absolutely fine. I was cool with that. But one day she came in when I came in half an hour early to train a client. And this was at like 5:30 in the morning. Gym didn't open till 6. But everyone would get in at 5:30 to get the gym ready. And she came up to me when I was coaching a client halfway through and basically said, what on earth do you think you're doing in front of the client? And the embarrassment and shame that I had in that moment and the anger that I had as well to me trying to actually create more value for the company and to be able to help more individuals at a time that I thought I could only cram in so much in a day. Let me get in half an hour early. I was actually serving the client at a higher level because I was actually going above and beyond for that person. They couldn't get in at 6. But for her to make that decision in that moment to come over to me, it started from there where I figured out there's got to be a better way to lead people and get more out of them, because that ultimately that decision that she made to come do that in front of a client, where she could have just held off for half an hour and had a one-to-one with me and just said, Luke, I appreciate you coming in and doing that one-to-one session, but in future this is the standard that we up. That would have been fine. But she did it in front of the client. And I've from that point just become obsessed with who do I need to become as a leader to avoid those situations happening, whether I need to be firm with a team member, whether I need to be driving a certain standard home or an expectation that I have, but always for the betterment of the business and the individual in front of me, which is the team member. Because I want to see the business grow, but I find I get more satisfaction from developing individuals who become monsters. And we were talking earlier about Tom. He's been with us 5 weeks now, and I've been hard on him for the last few weeks, but I see a completely different person to who I see in 5 weeks ago. And that for me lights me up because I know what's on the other side of that for him if he continues to maintain that standard. Yeah,
without a doubt. And as we were speaking at breakfast, we were talking, I'm pointing at Tom, who's sat over there, but all three of us were talking, and I think when you can find somebody, particularly if you're early on in your career, that you can learn from, that can instill a way of thinking, that can give you frameworks, tools, techniques, and just standards, it will fast track your growth and it will fast track your success. You get paid in 2 coins in business, money and experience. I think the earlier you are in your career, like just stack up those experience coins, because the long-term compound effect of that will then, you'll get the first coin a hell of a lot faster. And that's really what, that's what leading is, And for me, whenever I'm hiring a junior member of staff or somebody that's earlier in their career, sometimes the funnest bit is what's obvious to us isn't necessarily obvious to them. Yeah. And such a simple thing of, here's how my calendar works. Yeah. And here is how I structure my time and my day. Implement it, run with it. It's almost like a newbie gym goer insta gains, right? In that first 12-week period, it's like, oh my God, like I've changed so much. This is amazing. Yeah. And sometimes that's really alluring because it's really nice and fun and exciting. Yeah. But then also it's continuously helping that individual grow and evolve.
It's tough. It's tough. And I get why a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, people who manage teams get frustrated by, you could say incompetence or something not being done a certain way. But I always come back to the principle of like, what could you have done better? And just over the past year, speaking to more and more entrepreneurs who have got teams and listening to how they communicate about their teams, I think there needs to be a bit of a shift in the expectations they set for the team member, but also holding themselves to account and going, why did this break down? What could have been different here? What could I have done? And coming back to Tom again, something we spoke about in the car the other day is always coming back to, it's always your fault. There's always something you could have done as a leader. And when I speak to people who just go, you just can't get the staff, you just can't get the team. That's one of my pet hates when I hear people say that, because we've got 16 people in the company now who, I wouldn't say that about one of those guys, but there's a reason why. And you've always got to look back at yourself and go, what have I done? Because I was that guy. 4 years ago when I started bringing on team members, I was like, they're not doing this, they haven't done that. And don't get me wrong, that still happens to this day, but I do something about it. I communicate the expectations, I set the standard, and more importantly, I have the highest standards for myself. So if something isn't right, something isn't done right, or I've got a blind spot I haven't seen, I take ownership, and I hope the team pull me on that. Just like I would for them.
Well, that's externalization, right? It's easy to complain and blame everyone else and go, like my whole team isn't firing. What a bunch of idiots. Well, hang on, you're the idiot that hired the team, right? Yeah. So the idiocy starts with you. It's not necessarily everyone else's fault. So either A, you haven't done a good job enough of hiring, B, you haven't set the standard enough, or C, you haven't actually built the processes and communicated what needs to happen. But that's not the team's fault. That's your fault. And it comes back to it all. If you take total responsibility for everything, it makes things a lot easier and you can move forward a lot faster. But when you do tend to blame the world, and then this is where entrepreneurs, less experienced entrepreneurs, start to blame. Once you start to blame one thing externally, you start to blame everything else. It's the team, it's the market, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. You essentially give away all of your power. Whereas when you have the ability to just go, all right, this one's on me today. Unlucky. I own it. Apologize if you need to apologize and move on. You can move a hell of a lot faster.
100%. It's like what Jocko Willink says about extreme ownership. I mean, you only need to read the front cover of that book to understand the principles inside of it. But when I listened to that book, that gave me a real insight into taking extreme ownership on absolutely everything. And that goes for fitness. That goes for how you show up at home. You know, my eldest now is 3 years old. She'll be 3 on Friday. And when we had her, my whole world flipped upside down, where I had to, in a good way, I had to be a different kind of entrepreneur. I had to have more standards for myself and my home, because my partner's the CEO of the house. I'm the CEO of the company outside of the home. So I needed to make sure I was there for her. I was there for my daughter. And then having a 6-month-year-old now, again, that shifts again. There's different priorities. And when if I take you back to when I actually found out that we were going to have our first child, that was one of the most scary experiences I ever had. I'll never forget when my partner messaged me. I was about to go into a team meeting, and she messaged me like, what time will you be home? And I was like, that's weird. Kelly would never message me like, what time am I home? So I must have said, I don't know, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. And she was like, okay, cool. Is there any way you can come home at lunch? And I was like, oh, shit. Something's going down here. And when I got home, the reaction that most people would have to finding out they're going to have a child is like excitement, they're ecstatic. That for me was probably one of the most embarrassing experiences I ever had when I look back on that, because it was an experience where it was so negative. I was like, oh my God, I've got so many dreams and aspirations and things that I still want to achieve, and I'm not ready for this. Probably a bit like early founders who feel like they're not ready to move into a business, or if they're looking to do a startup. And I had those same doubts. And I was like, I'm not ready to be a dad. This isn't in place. I'm not in the right position. I thought I was going to have this by the time I was going to have kids. But after a day, it did take a day, I started to overcome it. And I think the biggest thing for me at that time was my partner in my corner saying that, if anything, I want you to double down even harder on what you're currently doing, because you're going to have a family. And within those 9 months before she was born, it was about figuring out what kind of dad I wanted to become, and what kind of business leader I needed to be to become the father that I wanted to be. And I had some amazing lessons from just my parents and my dad as an early mentor of mine, my first mentor, to know what I wanted that to look like. But it shifted my focus at work, and I moved with a different intensity. The calendar it was completely different. And I always say this to founders is your calendar today should be completely different in 12 months' time. if you've evolved at a rate and a pace that you want to. If you're looking to do big things, you can't have the same calendar as what you have in a year's time. So for me, what I was doing a year ago, maybe I was doing half of my week was on the gym floor. That is now no longer. I'm leading the team who are on the gym floor. And a year from now, I'll probably be working even heavier and harder on the media company. I'll probably be on more podcasts. I'll probably be doing more shoots. And that is a sign that you're evolving at a pace that you want to.
Yeah. And when it comes to structure and it comes to calendar, like if you look at your diary and you have more weeks where you feel resistance and you start to resent your diary, there's something has to change. And your life circumstances will change. Children, businesses, there'll be some moments where you've just got to suck it up and go, all right, I've got to put my big boy pants on and graft my way through. And then you have to have the space to go, well, hang on, I can't do that forever. You know, as much as we like to think we can David Goggins it, it's just not the most effective way of getting it done. And you're right, as an entrepreneur, as you evolve, you can evolve. The things that you're thinking about, the things that you're focusing on, what it is that you're trying to solve or not solve or disprove. And there is a lot of layers of identity that needs to be shed. But then also on the identity side, it's choosing what parts of your identity serve you and saying, well, actually, like, you know what, I like that. So here's an example. I could have shifted with Total Mental Performance and gone, right, I'm only going to manage, I'm only going to lead, and I'm only going to go and grow the business that way. So I looked at it, and now from a commercial lens, that would have made more sense to take TMP from 5 coaches to 10 coaches to 25 coaches and try and build it that way. And we had the market opportunity to do that. But I made a conscious decision to go, well, I love one-to-one coaching. Like there is nothing that lights me up more than sitting in front of a human being and listening and holding up a mirror and asking a killer question that might change their whole lens on what reality is and their place within their reality or their perceived reality. So there are moments where with founders and entrepreneurs, you've got to figure out, don't just go to the perceived next level of whatever that is, just because it appears to be the thing.
It feels like the right move, but you may wake up one day and realize, shit, I hate this. Yeah.
And if you know deep down it's not what you want, then actually you're better off playing in your strength. I get the sense that you've worked hard at it, but I also get the sense that you're a natural manager. Whether that's from your football days, working in teams and seeing teams, whether it's the managers that you've had, I just get the sense that you really enjoy helping an individual and providing the structure and the progression pathway to help them go through the leagues and the levels.
Yeah, I've definitely got a lot of room to grow, 100%. I think one of my superpowers is just seeing potential in people and just being able to see that they've got more. And I think one thing that the fitness industry has failed a lot of coaches on is not giving them the vehicle to really accelerate, whether it's the model that they're in, whether they're working in a commercial space, whether they think the next step is for them to go and develop a one-to-one personal training client base. But some people aren't natural business owners, and they're actually better to be intrapreneurs than they are entrepreneurs. And that's where building T2 Fit has been a big passion of mine, because there's some incredible coaches way above where I am, but they've not been in the right model to accelerate. And when I see coaches coming on board with us, or I have conversations, because there's 2 funnels that I work in on a daily basis: client acquisition, talent acquisition. They're the 2 places that I spend most of my time on a weekly basis. People coming in from a client perspective, and who are we nurturing to develop the model, the product, and to come in and help us with the vision. And when I see people who the spark's just not there anymore, maybe they've been in the industry for 5 or 10 years, and when they come in and come around the culture, because it's not just, you mentioned actually it's either about like money or it's about knowledge that they're getting. I would throw in another one, which is around being somewhere that people love to be, and there's that growth mindset mentality that everybody in the space that they're working in, let's use one of our locations, which has got 8 team members. Those guys are like a family, they're tight knit. And when there's a quote I love, which is when leadership is high, the average goes up. And even a coach who's not got much experience can come in and just grow at a rapid pace. And that's because the culture's there. And it's not a culture we've always had. It's something we've had to work on, and we will continuously have to work on. One thing that we've recently just done as part of our quarterly goals is have a book review. We've had a book called Unreasonable Hospitality, which I recommend anyone watching this right now or listening to this to go and get. Will Guidara takes a restaurant in New York called 11 Madison Park from a 1-star to a 4-star, from 50 in the world to number 1. World class on customer service, leadership, building teams, systems, superb. Have you read it before?
No.
Mate, it's world class. I read it about 2 years ago. And then when we were looking at what we need to level up as a team, one of the things was around customer service, how we can just take that to another level. And that book is the first thing that came to mind. And we set it as one of our goals and one of our things to really focus on over the quarter. So every team member had to read it across July, sorry. And then the action points are going to move into August and September. So it's things like that people actually love to be pushed. And I think the mindset, going back to some founders who feel like their team aren't doing what they want them to do, it's also they sometimes have the mentality which is my team just don't like to do work. When actually I think that's the complete opposite. People love to be busy. People love to be doing something that's got value in, and at the other side of the hard work, they're actually going to see a payoff, and they're actually going to see something come to light, whether it's a project, a task that they're working on. And I think if you push people in the right way and you find out what makes people tick, you can get so much more out of your team.
Yeah, I think the right people like to be busy. Not everyone. There are some people that work on the path of least resistance.
I think it comes to your hiring process.
Yeah,
the
people that you hire will be proactive because you're proactive.
Yeah,
and there'll be a series of values and traits that you see. But sometimes
one way. Sorry, just to finish up on that, one way that I think you can really look to find what that person is capable of is testing them, especially coaches for us. Uh-huh. One of the things that we do is throw out little doggy bones, and we'll say, why don't you come in for 3 sessions and just see how they communicate back to us. Do they show up on time? How do they engage with the community? That is the best interview ever. Never take a first interview with somebody sitting down, looking at their CV and what you're getting at face value for that 60 minutes as what you're going to get. Get them to come in, and I think a training, like even if you don't have a gym or you're not a gym owner or you're not a fitness coach, whatever sector you're in, just go and get a workout with them. That is, you see what somebody's made of when you go and lift some weights, and you go and see like how do they move their body when they're like fatigued and tired? Do they want to drop out halfway through? What do they do? Like test them a little bit. How do they show up? How do they interact with other people in the gym? How do they interact with you? Get another team member on. But I think that is one of the most powerful ways that you can actually see what somebody's all about, and you see the stripped back version of who that person is. I don't really care about the experience. I want to know like what's the soul, and how can I build that person to be world class?
Yeah. Well, when you have an understanding of your culture and how they think and feel, so you've clearly got a set of standards of behaviors and an energy that feels right. Like if you think about a company's like an organism, and every time you introduce someone new, that organism is evolving and it's growing and it's building. And you might put one person in, they don't respond very well to the environment, and then all of a sudden it upsets the organism and that doesn't work. And then you bring somebody else in, and it is taking your time to understand who that individual is and how they think and feel. So sometimes as well, hiring a bit of a wild card, hiring somebody that isn't necessarily, this is our perfect fit, and somebody comes along and you can see that they have the right attitude, but they're slightly different. Because if we only hire the carbon copies of us, we can only get the same level of thinking. I remember there was a tech company I was working at, and we hired somebody that we knew was lazy. And I asked my director, well, why are we hiring them if we know that they're lazy? And he said, because lazy people will find easier ways to do things. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he's going to do the least amount of work required. He might not stay forever, but he's going to come in and he's going to look at our processes, and he's going to try and
figure out efficiencies.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that completely blew my mind, because I'd never in my mind hired somebody that I perceived as lazy, but he was looking at it from a different perspective. Now, that company had the money to do that, right? Because they'd raised a lot of money and they were very well heeled. So you could... just like a football luxury player, like it's kind of like a luxury hire to a degree, which is let's hire someone lazy and let's see how they manage to get away with things. And that was completely outside of what I believed from a hiring perspective. And the guy came in and he was lazy, but he got everything done in less time than everyone else. And they started. He was in the development team. I was in the business development team, and he was in the software side. And I remember watching that, because he was a mentor in the business, and I remember him saying, why would you do that? That doesn't make sense. And then 3 months later, he said, yeah, he's found us so many different efficiencies that could have been done with less work. Because busy, for me anyway, I train a lot of my clients to become more effective. And busy people can have the perception that they're getting more done, but they're not necessarily putting rubber to the road and getting the right things done. For me, I'm more impressed with somebody that can work less and have more white space in their diary, yet out-achieve the outcomes that everybody set that they're working towards, than somebody that's going 120% all the time. Because the guy that's working at 80% but consistently getting the result again and again and again, they're going to stay in the game longer, and they're going to be able to compound the success and the outcomes that they want. Somebody that's operating at that, say that more 110, 120% consistently, they're going to burn out, or there's going to be an inconsistency at their ability to perform.
Jeff Bezos has that principle of signal versus noise. I don't know if you've heard of it before. The signal being the thing that you need to focus on that moves the needle. There's noise being the other 20 things that could be worked on but aren't really going to push things forward. What do you do with that when you look at what you do on a daily basis and how you can impact the business?
You know, I'll tell you a story. So we spoke about a little bit on it earlier, but I created an app with one of my best mates now. It was called Make Weight, and it was a nutrition app for combat athletes to help them lose weight. I borrowed £15,000 of one of my mentors. Luke borrowed it off of his uncle, and it didn't work. It completely failed, and we lost all the money. I went to go pitch for 50 grand, and my mentor Ron, now who's been in my corner for over a decade, just in that one pitch went, this is why your business is completely flawed, and this is why I'm not going to invest any of my money. Here's a potential pivot, but if I was you, get out. And he was right. And 2 days later, we made a decision. Yeah, Ron was right. We're out. So now we're in debt. We have to clear that off. And in that business, I got introduced to another guy who I was trying to pitch for 50 grand, called Dave. And Dave has built 2 digital agencies that was bought, and then he stayed on and he got bought again, and then he launched another company that then got bought. He essentially got acqui-hired by Google to go and build that. He's one of the smartest, coolest Canadian dudes I've ever met. Lovely, lovely man. As I was pitching him, he goes, yeah, I'm not giving you any money for this. He goes, but I can help you on product development. I said, yeah. And he goes, I'm going to tell you one simple thing that's going to help you. I went, okay. And he just looks at me with a smile and goes, Microsoft Word, buddy. And I said, what about it? He goes, do you know how intricate that software is? I went, no. And he pulls it up on his Mac, puts it on the screen. He's like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And he was showing me things with Word I didn't even know you could do. It was unbelievable. Like you can change, like there was so many different configurations for Microsoft Word. It blew my mind. And he goes, do you know how much the average user actually uses Word? Like what percentage of Word that it uses? And I said, no. He goes, less than 1% of its total functionality and what it's capable of. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, what do you use? And I said, file, save, bold, underline, italics.
Export.
Yeah, save. He goes, yeah. So the problem is when you're building products and services is you can build infinitely. So what you've got to figure out, and that was for a tech product, but I think it's the same for anything. He goes, you've got to figure out what file, like the file button is. Yeah. You've got to figure out what the writing the text bit is. So for me, there's 2 ways. You can look at it from a company perspective, or you can look at it from a business owner perspective and the founder perspective. And I live in the business owner and founder world first. I don't live so much in the company world first. But what that taught me was all I've got to do is find my file, save, bold. That's all I've got to do if I'm building a product or a service. Yeah. But when it comes to the person and the individual, entrepreneurs and founders aren't selfish enough. People that work for these businesses will be like, what? They're the most selfish people in the world. They're the ones that are making all the money. They're the ones that have got all the things. They've got the lifestyle. Like, how are they not the most selfish ones? Well, the reason being is often they forget that they have a life that they want to live. They have a dream life that they want to live, and they become a slave to the business or the company that they've built. So one of the things that I do to help myself and help my clients identify, well, what is the signal versus the noise, is going, how do you actually want to exist on this planet over the next 12 to 18 months? No, what? It's like, What does the perfect day, what does the perfect week, what does the perfect quarter, year look like? Like, let's break that all down. And once you've broken all of that down, this is for the founder of the company, it's then reverse engineering. Okay, well, how far off of you of living that life are you? And most of the time, it's very far away. So these are for founders that might feel a little bit stuck or lacking clarity into where it is that they're going. Once we reverse engineered that perfect life, air quote, right? There's no such thing as a perfect life, but what does that look like? It's then re-engineering their role in the company that enables them to work like that, because they're going to feel more calm, more clear, more fulfilled. And as a result, they're going to get better outcomes for the business because they're in a better place. So that's the signal for the founder. And once we're clear, where is it? How is it you want to live? How do you want to exist over the next 12 to 18 months? How do you, 3 years from now, like if we sat down and we had a coffee and you looked back at me and I asked you, how is everything? And you look back with this twinkle in your eye and life couldn't be better. What happened for that to be the answer? Taking that and going, okay, well, this is what the perfect way of existence looks like, but then this is also the life that we're working towards. You need to find a way to re-engineer this business to give you that. And the energy that the founder will attack their company and their market with, well, maybe the wrong word is attack, but flow through, it's completely different because they're a lot more aligned versus reactively responding to how do I get NPS up in the company. That's important, but that's not necessarily the signal that the founder or the business owner needs.
Yeah.
And then they reverse engineer, okay, I need this company to be doing this much in revenue, of this much profit. I'm spending too much time in these training activities. I need to find a way to take them off my plate, automate or delegate. Then I need to restructure my diary this way. And then more selfishly, it's different when you're operating at, maybe if you're a CEO, not the owner, but the CEO of a company that's doing 50 to $1 billion in annual revenue. It's a different ball game. But on the founder owner level, tapping into that will then cascade all of the changes that need to happen within the company for them to stay in the game for the long run. Does that make sense?
100%. So if you were to break that all down, reverse engineer it, how do you get that founder? Because coming from a day, like let's say I did a half day with you, right? And I'm pumped, I'm hyped. I'm like, I know exactly what my perfect week looks like. How do you avoid them getting distracted? Because most people who read a book or come away from a course, 2 weeks later, they're back on the grind and they're like, they've completely forgot about that part. Is it a mental model? Or is it a framework that they have to revisit every day, every week? Because I know for myself, I can easily get to the point where there's another shiny thing. And I'm like, maybe we need to do that. How do you avoid getting stuck in that trap of not following the course?
Yeah. Well, with my clients, part of the reason I get the results and the reputation I've built is because I'm really good at picking clients. That might sound a bit weird, but I know with the right client, this person is an operator, and I know that they will listen and they're coachable and they've got a track record of success in implementing things. So anytime that I'm going to work with a client, usually it's not been a direct application. We've met each other, we've chatted for a period of time. They've got to know me, I've got to know them. The coaching for me starts like before they sign up. It's steps miles before that. And then when I can see this person actually, they will operate, they will get it done. If I have a doubt and it's like, what's the point? Particularly with the investment level that they're going in into this type of consultancy, I'm picking so much earlier on to make sure that I know that they'll get a return on investment. Now, let's say that's ticked. From there, depending on the length of the engagement, the client and the coaching brief, there's two parts. I already know that the client will integrate and get shit done. Like I've got zero doubt. So that it's a little bit easier. But from there, it's a case of setting, what do you actually want? Perfect day, perfect week, perfect life. Okay, great. Where do you need to get the company to in order to do that? This way. Okay, go away, work on a plan, step by step, like a business plan, and pitch it back to me so I understand what the next steps are, but you also understand the next steps. That might be via a Loom, that might be on one of our calls. They've then pitched it back and I've said, okay, what actions need to happen today, tomorrow, this week, and this month to do that? And then a lot of it is just re-pulling up that brief and going,
revisiting,
where are we at?
Yeah. And is there triggers that you have for that? Is it like a daily thing that you review, weekly?
Most of my clients are self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So
no, as in like the client. I'm thinking if that was me, what would I need to do? what would you say so I don't get distracted and avoid the noise?
Got it. So everybody's brain's different. Mm-hmm. So whilst I have a coaching framework, I'm also responding to the neurology and the way in which you think. So if I'm working with an autistic client or an ADHD client or a neurotypical client that has a series of tendencies that we've discovered, what they do will be based on what works for them, right, versus everybody does the same thing. Maybe a lot of people that come from the fitness sector, they like weekly check-ins. So maybe it's a case of at the end of the week, you send me over, and again, the work is always on the client because I can't do the work for you, right? But at the end of the week, you send me an email update. Here's what was agreed. Here's what's been ticked off. Here's where I'm stuck. Here's where I'm getting in my own way. And then where you're getting in your own way, that's where I come in and I go, right, well, what is it? Is it ego? I don't let that go because it makes me feel important. Okay. Is it an insecurity? I'm getting spooked by perceived competitors in the market that are more experienced than me. All right, well, what's that about? Maybe it's just an underlying anxiousness, or you have a propensity to see shiny objects and run at them. Okay, well, you need a decision-making framework. So when the shiny object comes up, you can go, okay, is it in line with my perfect life? Yes or no? No, killed it, done. Don't even have to think about it. Yes, it is. Okay, great. Is it in line with not only how I want to live, but is it in line with my company goals? Yes, no. Yes, okay, brilliant. Do I have the bandwidth to potentially execute on this? Yes, no. No? Right, we just kill it. So a lot of it's about putting the frameworks in place that work for you specifically to just cut out the noise. I'll tell you a story. Back when I was in software sales, I had this one quarter where I hit 237% of my quarterly target, and I was absolutely on fire. And word was spreading around the city. I was getting a lot of recruits calling me for various different technologies, and I was getting like a little overwhelmed. So that first month in the next quarter, I wasn't on the ball, and I dropped the ball. And I said to my mentor, how do I deal with all of the noise? Like, we've built my dream life. We know where I want to go, but I'm getting like all these phone calls. And he said, that's really simple. You just need minimum terms that act as a filter. And what do you mean? He goes, once you've got your minimum terms, any offer or anything that comes into you, you can just qualify it out, and that's going to save you loads. So my minimum terms at that time was there was three. Will you give me a basic of £110,000? Was number one. Number two, is it a technology that I'm interested in that I can see a really solid market for that I think is going to be really successful? And then number three, will you relocate me to New York? Because I wanted to sell software in New York. Every single time I got a phone call or an email, I just copy pasted the filter, and most of the opportunities said no to one of those. So because I was clear on the destination of where it is that I wanted, it's then defending the noise, because the signal is I want to live like this, and I want to save this much, and I want to do these things and have these experiences. They're the signals. And then anything else, it's almost creating like a radar jammer to a degree, which is that's noise, that's not a signal. So when you put these various different tools and blinders on to keep cutting those out, your life becomes a lot more quiet, and it just becomes a lot easier. And when opportunities come up, or we think it's an opportunity, when actually it's not a signal, it's just noise, it's much easier to do it that way. So I don't know if that answers the question, but to put it into 3 steps, I guess, it's number 1, identification for the founder. Well, why would you put yourself through this much stress, and what is the life that is worth fighting for? What is the existence? Then, okay, develop the plan. So what do you need to do in order to pull that off? And if there's any psychological roadblocks, what are those that we need to uncover? And number 3, it's putting a series of frameworks and filters that stop you from coming off of that plan. Some of that will be just top level tactical work. Sometimes, mate, it's going into childhood and going into that inner child or into that former athlete that's still driving behaviors, thoughts and feelings. And it's having a word with that inner child to let that go, for you to step into that next league and next level. But we feel, as founders, we often feel more confident and happy and secure in the day-to-day running of the business. So we tend to run back towards that versus asking us the hard question, which is, what do I want my existence to be? And when I'm having those existential questions, those are the conversations where I come alive. Because for me, how can you reach, you're familiar with the concept of Ikigai?
No.
It's a Japanese way. It's the Japanese word. So Ikigai is a reason for being. And if you can find a reason for being in your work, they think you have the most fulfilling lives in the world. So it's something that you're good at, because we have to be good at things. We have to find the things that we're uniquely good at. It's finding something that you enjoy, because if you're good at something and you enjoy it, like, you're going to stay in the game for a hell of a lot longer. It's something that the world needs, because the world doesn't need it. It's really just a passion, right? You're good at it, you enjoy it, but the world doesn't really need it. And finally, it's something that you can get paid for. And if you're living at the center of that, that is essentially Ikigai. So for me, it's also helping founders find their Ikigai so they can stay in the game longer and either A, achieve more in less time with less stress and wasting less money, and B, it's dialing up fulfillment. How fun is that? How much do you want to do this? And that for me is that's my Ikigai. It's helping founders live more calm, more clear, get more results in their business faster in a way in which is meaningful. And I have some red lines, like I won't work with arms dealers, I won't work with criminals, I won't work with anything that doesn't benefit the world or is more malicious in its intent. But when you're working towards what I call more light work, more positive things that impact the world, that's where I want to be. So that's the bit for me that I think most founders miss, is to looking inwards and going, hang on. So focus on what the company wants and needs from me. I'm actually thinking about, what do I want and what do I need? And when you have that company alignment and the founder alignment, the rest of it tends to take care of itself. And that's where you see founders working less, achieving more, really flowing to another league and another level, because they've got their priorities straight. And they're bright, ambitious people, so they'll figure it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I like that. Ikigai.
Yeah, there's a book.
Okay.
I'll send it to you after.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good book. Do you listen to books?
More so read, but 20% is listen.
All right, I'll get a copy sent over as a thank you for coming on the pod. Because I think if you're going to put yourself through this much stress and you're going to take on this much risk, like, a lot of people start out with fear and doubt and insecurity and like, I need to prove myself and prove my worth in the world, and that's great for starting out, but that energy isn't necessarily going to be the thing that's going to take you to the next league in business, not only insofar as the commercial and financial results, but then also your health and your happiness and your ability to operate. And you've only got so much time on the planet. Why not build on light energy versus just dark energy?
100%. This has been a big mindset shift for me when it comes down to the content. It's how can I give more than I take? And I think when you go from being, especially if you're a solopreneur and you're on your own, it's all about you and where you're getting the next client, when you're serving the next person, where you've got to be next in the calendar. And as soon as you start making it about other people and stop making it about you, I think it gives you a big shift, and it comes back to that Ikigai, because you start to realize there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of fulfillment in serving other people, coming back to unreasonable hospitality. That's one of the biggest lessons from that book. Is there's great, like, a lot of people think a server or a waiter is like a low level job, but what a pleasure to be able to create insane experiences for somebody, to actually be able to provide amazing food and a 2-hour long meal that somebody might be having a celebration or an anniversary or whatever it is. It's looking through that lens and finding what you love. So yeah, I love that Ikigai. Send it over.
Yeah, mate, you're gonna love it. Yeah, you're gonna love it. Yeah. Like I said to you at breakfast, it's why I won't let go of the one-to-one. Sure, I could make more money with TMP and do that in that company specifically, but then I'd have to be giving away one of my reasons for being. For me, because I'm so in line with my Ikigai, it's not even a question. Don't get me wrong, I have other projects I'm working on at the moment, which are like, okay, well, that still gives me Ikigai, but enables me to help and impact people at a wider, larger scale. So that part doesn't die. It's not a lack of ambition, but it's doing it in a way which is totally in alignment. Because at the end of the day, we'll all be dead soon, and we take ourselves so seriously, and we take business and life and company goals also seriously, but we forget that. And it'd be a shame if you woke up one day and went, oh my gosh, I spent all this time trying to hit these perceived goals that I set for myself, and bullied my way into it and trying to achieve those. And I spent many years with and you probably did that in many times too, like bullying yourself towards a goal 100%. And then realizing, man, I could have made that much easier for myself, which allowed myself to enjoy that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. It comes back to what you mentioned earlier, where we were speaking about signal versus noise. I think when you try and strip things back and you simplify what you do, you haven't got so much chaos. It's incredibly hard to scale chaos and to grow that when there's lots of different decisions. We spoke earlier about the opportunity in Dubai with acquiring a gym a few months ago, and actually just waking up one day going, you know what, I need to cut something. It was a good opportunity 4 weeks ago. It's now not. And being okay with that sunk cost, that you feel that you've put the time, we've spent money, we've gone out there and even visited the gym. It's been okay with just saying, you know what, I'm not going to move forward with this. Because it's too many. After the Dubai thing didn't happen, I spoke to one of our clients at the gym. We went on a run club, and he was talking about this RAM that we have, that we can only, like a work in progress RAM. When that's full, he's in tech, and he was saying that we have this concept that when we've had too much work in progress, that we need to cut something because decisions become poor, or you procrastinate over decisions because you've got so many other things rattling around. You don't want to make the wrong one, so you end up not making any. Yeah. And that's a big challenge, I think, when it comes down to, especially entrepreneurs. Like, everyone's got loads of great ideas, whether it's around a different business that you're looking to launch alongside the one that you currently have, or the one that you currently do and you're looking to make that better. Because from a founder and entrepreneur level, we want to create more money, but we also want to create, we want to serve more people. We want to be able to create something. Maybe it's to do with identity too, that we want to be worth something. And we want to show the world that we can do many things. But when you really look at the people who have done some amazing things in the world, they focus on just one thing. There's that book called The One Thing, which shifted my perspective a few years ago when I picked it up, because it really taught me to just stop thinking about doing loads inside of the business, and we just operated at one thing. What was the one thing that got the client the best result? Let's double down on that and make that 100%, rather than complicating thing, adding a ton of complexity to it, paralyzing clients with options, instead of just going, this is what you need, this is the one thing that we have, this is the one thing that we know can help you the best. That's it.
That's the signal versus the noise.
But it's hard. That's why I asked you the question, because I think it's a really tough one to not get distracted and go, oh, that's or you see something and go, that person's doing that I might do that. That's a great idea. So you're seeing it through a different lens, from like a zoomed out version, rather than actually being in it and going, maybe what you see isn't actually what's currently happening right now. That's obviously the challenge of social media. Yeah. But I've definitely been there. Even up until now, I still get that. Where I'm like, maybe we should do this. Maybe we should pivot a little bit. Maybe that's a great opportunity.
Yeah. Sometimes I set my clients challenges just to not look at social media for a month. And they're like, oh, but I've got to post. I've got to do this. I'm like, no, you don't. You can outsource that to the team. Like, but I need to post a story. Text it to your assistant and say, throw this up on the story, please. Like, you don't have to be on it all the time. And what it does is it just cuts out a lot of the noise, because this leads more into comparison and noise. But if you think about where humanity has gone, like, it makes total sense. So you're familiar with the phrase keeping up with the Joneses, right? Mm-hmm. So the Joneses literally used to live down the road from you. You live in the same sort of postcode. You're going to have a fairly similar socioeconomic background. And, there might be an outlier from the town, but maybe one. So back in the day, you would only compare to your genuine neighbours. Whereas now we've got these little glass boxes, and the neighbour's window that we're looking into, comparing to the Joneses next door, actually they're in your hand, and they are the outliers of success. Arsenal have got a player coming through, Max Dowman. He's 15. He's in the first team playing unbelievable football, right? So as a football player, that is one in hundreds of millions, if not maybe even a few billion, of 15-year-olds that are going to play for the first team at Arsenal, even if it's only pre-season friendly. I think he played in the FA Cup last year. I think.
Wow.
What was it, the FA Cup? Maybe, I'm not sure. No, not Max. I'm thinking someone else. Anyway, that is a outlier. But because they're in your hand, you're now perceiving that as your neighbour. So it's the same in business, right? Which is
exactly the same.
You're looking at your perceived neighbour, but they're not. So you see all of these outliers, and the algorithm is designed to show you outliers because it keeps you on the platform and it keeps you looking. But it's so noisy. And if you get caught up in that world of this person's doing this person's doing this, it's with some founders, they feel threatened or triggered by competition. It's like, they're doing this and they're doing this, maybe we need to do this, and what about this and that, and it gets really stressful, and like it doesn't make sense. And it also doesn't make sense to do that when it's not on your terms. You know, if you're going in and doing competitor analysis, cool. But if you're just sort of going, like walking to the shops and you have a quick scroll, and the next thing you know, you're triggered by that.
Your state is just plummeting.
Yeah. So I think social media, it's good because it can expose you to ideas that are outside your bubble, but then at the same time, it can actually create a chamber, an echo chamber of the same ideas that you've got, because that's what you're going to look at. So you stare at more ads. And I think 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we'll look back at phones the same way we look at kids smoking cigarettes in the 60s. You know, it's like, you to give kids cigarettes, are you mental? It's the same with these phones. It's like we are absorbing so much like dopamine and so much just horrible, triggering, noisy, like it's like a drug, you know. I just, you can be more smart with your neurochemistry by just not exposing yourself to that. Just like porn or gambling or drugs, drinking, you know, it's the same. It's just in a different guise. But then we try to pretend, but it's personal branding. And so like, come on, mate.
Talk
like,
ourselves into it.
Don't give me that, you know. Yeah,
it's been a tough one for me actually, just with driving more on the personal brand and looking at more things. One, looking for inspiration, but also looking at the content, looking at the numbers. I know for a fact I've spent 3 times the amount of time as I was usually spend on social media. I can feel it. I can feel myself being more, because I'm so aware of every little detail. I'm looking at both our content, what I'm putting out, and looking at every single thing, every analytic, every number, exactly like I would do in a business. I'm looking at what's the average watch time, what's the engagement rate, how many likes, how many saves, how many reposts, like all that kind of stuff I've become obsessed by, which is good because it's going to allow us to be aware of what do we need to do to improve and create more great content. But I also get sucked into what everyone else is doing. And at times it's very hard to come out of that. And before you know it, you're like half an hour's gone by and you go, has that really served me? I've gone on to do some competitive research. Coming back to the calendar we were speaking a little bit about off air, is having that logged, I think, is powerful, and having some strict routines around it. I know you even have that block on your phone that you can't go on any emails or social media till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, so I have Opal. So essentially that come 10 p.m, I have 2 phones. First and foremost, I have 2 phones. That's really important to me. I have a work phone, I have a personal phone. If I'm with my family, I want nothing to do with work. So that stays in the office or it's switched off. Same if I'm out with my mates, same if I'm in the gym, that doesn't come with me. There is a physiological and psychological boundary between what work and pleasure is and play. So that's out. But on both phones, I have an app. It's called Opal. So I can't access any work apps before 11 a.m. usually. So I can't go on Instagram if I'm on my work phone. If I even want to log in, I couldn't do it. Same with my work email, because my mornings are for me, and I work better late in the day and in the evening. And by ripping it out of my hands, I can't just I'll take a quick check or I'll take a quick look. I cannot get distracted because the physical mechanism for me to go and look for that isn't there. And I think in a digital world, it's easy to start blurring your personal life, your professional life, and what is work and what is not work. The next thing you know, you're wasting 20 minutes every 2-3 hours, like scrolling on the shit that you didn't need to do. And just like, sometimes even just making yourself angry, you know, but like you scroll, that's so bad. Or, I need to do this. Or, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I think that's super important. But the thing with the metrics, because I've worked with some influencers that have millions of followers, and they play that game, and I understand that game intricately, and you've got to be careful. I say this all the time, make sure money is in your hand, not in your heart. But for you, it's the same with the engagement. Keep the engagement in your hand, not in your heart. Because you're ambitious and you're driven and you want to hit targets and you want to do all these various different things, you'll be looking at those metrics and going, they're going up, great. But you've got to be very careful, because if you play that game, the content that you start to create might not necessarily be you, but it's making those things go up, you know. And next thing you know, you're running around in a bikini on a beach somewhere, and it's like, yeah, look how well this video performed, and it's like, wait a minute, and then you're too sharp for that to happen, right? But like you get the idea, where slowly 100%. But surely
Yeah.
You can start to go, yeah, but I want to score this goal because I like scoring goals. And this goal right now is I want to get more people to eyes on my page. Well, then you start doing things or interacting with people.
That doesn't align with you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for me, I always have a mentor or have multiple mentors in my corner to hold up that mirror for me and challenge me and go, man, like, is that truly what you want? You know? And then it's always coming back up to the ulterior signal, which is how do you want to live? How do you want to exist? What is it you want to do? And then you just reverse engineer it back down. But yeah, social media, man, it's a rabbit hole. Have you read Hooked?
No, but it's in my bookshelf.
Read.
I'm a serial buyer of books. And when I get one
really.
recommended, because it got recommended to me, I buy it because otherwise I'll forget it and I'll never get it. So I get it and put it on the shelf.
Yeah, Hooked essentially talks about how all of these habit-forming products like social media and gaming and gambling keep you trapped in that loop. And whenever I look at things like social media, like I've never cracked the marketing thing. I do what we're doing right now, have some conversations. I speak aloud, and Kirsten will. I'll send Kirsten a couple of voice notes or some messages. I want to communicate this idea, turn it into something beautiful, and then that's what she does. But I've never really cracked the whole funnel thing. But I know that if I fall into that trap, I would become obsessive. And it only takes one or two things for you to start just veering off your path. And sometimes you got to step over the boundary of, oh, that wasn't cool, or that's not me, for you to realize where that boundary was or was not.
Yeah.
But I guess it's focusing back on the signal. What do I want? What outcomes am I looking for? And all of these things I'm measuring right now, does it lead me back to that? And then if the answer is no, then it's just dialing that down and then dialing up. Well, actually, maybe it's not the engagement, or maybe it's not being seen or being known or being whatever. Maybe it's actually less eyeballs, it's more quality eyeballs. Who actually is listening, or who actually is dialing in, who is reaching out to me, who am I speaking with, what conversations am I having? Some of the most, especially in business, some of like the best operators, they're not on the internet. I have a lot of mentors that aren't on the internet. They use it obviously, but like they don't put their stuff online. And that's because they're tapped into a frequency, which is, I have the right people come into my world because I know what I want and I know where I want to go, and I do the actions and the habits and the behaviors that are in line with my frequency and my signal. That takes me there. But then some people are built for the online game. And some of my clients, they're just built for that. You know, they're like entertainers. They are able to share messages that just go out to a real wide mass audience, and they love, like their Ikigai is creating content and falling in love with that journey.
Taking something from an idea to being published and going viral.
Yeah, that's their thing. And I think through my experience, because we've had 500 business owners and coaches through our one-to-one programs in Total Mental Performance, a lot of them have got big followings. It's almost like a 50. To be honest, it starts out at a 70-30 split. 70% of people are doing it for attention, needs for validation, needs for money. Like, it's more of an away playbook. 30% of them are just, they love creating content. And by the time they go through the program and they've become more calm and clear in who they are, and they've let go of a lot of doubts and fears and insecurities, and all of a sudden that shifts more to a 50-50 split, which is, actually, I just love making content. Or they accept, I don't like making content, but I understand it's a lever that I need to pull in order for me to grow the business, and I'm at peace with that, but I'm not doing it for the reasons that I was doing it beforehand. You know?
Yeah, 100%. Just going back to the mentor side of things, how do you assess what you need from a mentor? Is it a case of working with a mentor for as long as you need that person and then moving on to the next? Because some people have different theories around it, which is find one mentor, stay with them for the time. And others like get in, get what you need, get out, move on to the next one. Like plug the next gap. What's your thoughts around that?
I think so. I've had mentors in my corner for over a decade. I've had mentors that have worked with me for 3 months. I've had various different types. I think it comes down to the need in the moment. So, for example, Neil Shoney, I mentored Neil. I saw the results he was getting with his clients and the problems that he was solving. And I brought him on board as my mentor to say, hey, we'd like to build some campaigns to help us grow TMP and scale revenue. I think you can help me. Can you do that? And for a period of time, we worked together. We got what we needed, and that was it, right? So that's more tactical. Who has the tactical toolkit that's going to help me achieve a certain outcome that I'm looking for is very different. So I guess if I'm speaking this idea aloud, you have strategic mentors and you have tactical mentors. Tactical mentors is, here's the strategy, here's the tactic that's going to help me get to the strategy. You're an expert in this tactic. Teach me what I need to implement for me to hit my goal that's going to take me towards that. Then you have more strategic mentors, which is where I tend to sit, less in the detail of, have you put this SOP in place? Have you got this done? And I'm looking more around, where is it that you want to go? What is the signal? Well, how do you want to exist? How do we get the best out of you specifically? Because you can go and figure out all the tactical stuff yourself. You're smart enough to go and do that. So I guess it depends on where you're at and what you feel like you need. Is it more tactics-based? Find a specialist. Is it more strategically? Well, actually, I need to think a bit more about my path and where it is that I want to go. Where I work more tactically is more around the emotion management, the limiting belief management, and the psychological limits that somebody has where they're spending time and energy thinking and feeling in things that they don't need to do. That's where I move from strategic into tactical down my domain expertise. But I'm only doing that to get back to the strategic point, which is, where are you going? Sometimes people change. Sometimes mentors change. You know, they're at a different phase of life. You're at a different phase of life, and it's not, you either don't match anymore or it just doesn't naturally feel there.
Or you've extracted what you've needed.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Like for me, like my longer term clients, my longer term mentors, what's great about that is they're able to spot your patterns. So you're doing that thing again. Yeah, it's this shiny silver bullet. Okay, it's the shiny object. Yeah, you're right. I've fallen back into that pattern. Thank you for highlighting that. Sometimes it's reminding you, hang on, when you started out on this journey, this was important to you and these were your values. Have your values changed? Yeah, my values have changed, actually. I don't value that as much anymore. Okay, well, let's be explicit about those values and why are they there. So, yeah, it really comes down to what are you looking for? If you're clear on the strategic direction of how you want to exist, your mentors then become very obvious about who you need to have in your corner or who you don't. I work with a lot of my clients on identifying what I call the boardroom. Who do you have in the boardroom? Do you have a marketing expert that's going to help you hit your goals? Because you've told me you need to hit this much in sales. As a result, you need to, they'll basically go, for me to hit my number in sales, I need this many calls booked to go here, 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 here. Well, great. Do you have a strategy? Do you have a tactic to do that? Or do you have the person that can help you do that? No. Let's go find that expert to help you plug that gap, unless you believe you can do it on your own. Can you do it on your own? Yeah, I can. All right, forget that. Out you go. So when you can pick the right person at the right time, and sometimes I end up replacing myself. Sometimes I say, you know what? You don't need me anymore. You need this guy or somebody similar. So take me out of your mix, put this guy in, and let's see what happens. And it comes down to doing what's best for the client in that moment. And that is what creates exponential results, where your reputation precedes you versus just like, oh yeah, I worked for them for a bit. It was kind of cool. It was all right, you know? So that's kind of how I see it. How do you see it?
I think you've got to identify what it is exactly you're looking to achieve, having the vision, and then figuring out who out there knows how to, who's either achieved it or knows how to. And then I think the moment that you feel that you've got what you've needed out of it is moving on to the next one, and not being satisfied that you've figured the game out. You actually find the next layer or the next ceiling that you need to break through. We spoke about new levels, new devils earlier, and it's the same when it comes down to, I think, where I've always fallen short is I've always had the habit of hitting a ceiling and thinking that there's something else that I need to do, instead of actually working on that thing and going, how can I break past it to the next ceiling? How can I go to the next ceiling? Whether it's a certain amount of clients I'm trying to serve, or a result I'm trying to achieve, or a revenue target I'm trying to hit, or a new gym I'm trying to open. And if you always come back to who's already achieved this, you can get there in a tenth of the time compared to you trying to go through the pain. You can achieve it, but it's going to be painful. And for me, whenever I've seeked out a mentor or got somebody to help me out, it's just accelerated my growth. and I've also learned a lot more in the process. Every single mentor that I've worked with, I've gone them for a specific problem, and I've always come away with working on probably the thing I didn't even realize I needed to work on. I don't know if you find that when you're working with clients, but it's usually not the thing that I'm looking to fix, but if I fix this thing, that's what's going to fix that. Which is a funny way to look at mentors. But whether it's fitness, mindset, or whether it's around business, Phil Graham was one of my first early on mentors that I worked with, and that really taught me with the right person can unlock a whole new level to both how you are able to grow a business, how you're able to grow a team, and how aggressively you can move forward with being a founder looking to achieve big targets. He was a big mentor for me, and then when it got to a point of where I felt like, you know what, I've extracted exactly what I've needed here, then I moved on, and it's the same with what I've done ever since that point. Is plugging the gap, figuring out what you need most, and then moving on to the next. And then in a roundabout way, those mentors become friends, and they end up staying in your corner, and it's like a two-way relationship in the end, where you know a lot about them, they know a lot about you, and I think it's a beautiful relationship.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And sometimes I like to do this, but then I'm looking at this from a practitioner perspective. I like hiring people that are completely outside my wheel set, like less I want to hit this goal. And sometimes kind of like what that director did, hiring the lazy person just to see what happened. Sometimes I will take a random, like I went to color therapy once, right?
What does that mean? What'd you do?
Well, I didn't know what it meant either, right? And I walked in.
It's like a voucher thing, like a sponsored ad that came up.
Yeah, color therapy. Yeah, well, I was just interested in how can you use color to change the way in which you think and feel. And this color therapist sat me down, and she got me sat in front of a mirror with all these lights, and then she put these colors on me. She goes, notice how your skin tone changes, notice how your energy changes, notice how your energy is. And I was like, this is gonna be a load of bullshit. I'm not buying this. And then we started changing up essentially what I was wearing and the backgrounds behind me. And I noticed, like with red, I was really fired up. I'm an Arsenal supporter, and red for me is a color of like, let's attack, like let's go. And then she put, I think it was black. And I felt a lot more dominant and in control and like kind of dead. And the word I used was dead, solid, dominant, strong, powerful. And she put pink on me, and I was like, I feel so uncomfortable. I actually feel a little bit sick. It doesn't feel right. So, and this is going back to the psychology of it. People have different associations with different colors, and that can be from childhood. If you had a traumatic childhood and your bedroom was orange and you cried a lot, you might not love the color of orange, right? There are more societal, like we think of the word green, we think nature, it's healthy, it's this. Not everyone does, but some people have different relationships. So I brought that in, and I thought, well, that's interesting. Certain emotions for certain people have different colors. So I might ask you, where do you experience anxiousness? And you might say it's in my chest. Someone else might say it's in their stomach. And I say, what color is it? You might say black. Someone else might say green. So I already knew that from an emotional level, but I never, that was an internal thing. I never thought about the external thing. So then I started playing with my environment. So for me, white is spaciousness. It's freedom. It's essentially the infinite. So I started painting all my offices white ever since. So now when I don't have white in my house, because that's my working color. So whereas I find
that's pink.
Yeah. Oh,
pink
man.
in the house.
Gosh.
Has it influenced how you dress and what colors you wear?
Yeah, I used to wear black all the time. Black t-shirts, black jeans, black trainers, black everything. And I realized that I was like, why do I do that? And unconsciously, it was me trying to project strength and power and these things. And I started to realize, you know what? Like, it's actually quite boring. Don't get me wrong, I like wearing black. It's nice. When I'm trying to chill out or fuck around on a weekend, I put my Arsenal shirts on. And that's or I wear them to the gym as well. Because it's like, that's not me working. That's me feeling calm and confident and relaxed or doing what I need to do. Inspiring. Sometimes I can't spar anymore with injuries, but sometimes wear a black t-shirt, little black shorts, and white white gloves, white boxing boots, because white is speed and it's fast and it's infinite, but black is power and dominance. And so that was a speculative thing. I didn't need to solve my colors, but by bringing in something novel, it influenced the way in which I looked at my external relationship with color and how that begins to work. So sometimes, and I've done that, and I've had awful experiences where I'm like, this was such a waste of time, but I was curious, so I added in a new stimulus, and I went, that wasn't for me, that didn't work. I tried breath work, holotrophic breath work. I couldn't connect with it. Some people were in the room were breaking down and crying their eyes out and having these life-changing experiences. I couldn't. A lot of the breath work techniques were the same as boxing for me. Like, I wanted to start punching people because the same thing was a boxing thing. And I was like, I'm not going to get a breakthrough from this. Didn't work. Whereas that might have been a life-changing thing for me that I might have added to my toolkit or to my repertoire. So sometimes by just sprinkling somebody else from a different realm or reality, you can learn something new. But if you don't have a lot of time or space to explore those things, you don't necessarily have those opportunities to open those up. But the color thing was cool. That was like a fun...
It wouldn't be one I would have chosen, but if I see it come up on the old voucher,
yeah.
I'll jump on it.
Yeah. Mate, this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your patience with the podcast today as well. And again, shout out to the club, Stefan in Manchester. If you're ever shooting something, make sure you get up here. I'll put a link in the podcast so you can book all your guest conversations. One final question. Forget my company Total Mental Performance, but just the phrase. What does Total Mental Performance mean to Luke? If you had it, how would you know?
If I had total mental performance, I think it's being... It's a great question. Total mental performance. I was going to go one direction, but I might go in a different one. I think a lot of people have the physical. They look good, they can move, they can compete, they can perform. But I think fundamentally, what goes above and beyond that is actually the mental aspect of it and the resilience of being able to overcome challenges, whether that's personal, professional. It's being able to tune in to challenges and overcome them without sabotaging. And I think having control of the mind is one of the most powerful things that you can work on, more than the body. And body and mind go hand in hand. So I think it's something everybody should aspire to work on and develop, because it's the most powerful thing that we have. And for me, it's one thing that I'm continuously trying to develop. It's one thing that I'm continuously feeding with information, a bit like the social media side of things. That's one part that I'm looking to I'm very conscious of what I'm putting in. But what we can control is things such as books, audibles, people that we're in control of. So in a roundabout way, total mental performance is having a mind that is unstoppable for you and whatever that means for you, and being able to move through life with everything that's thrown at you and being able to overcome them with grace.
Beautiful. Mate, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Where can everyone find you?
Best place, Instagram. Follow me at LukeTurner_official. That's the best place, and somewhere that we're trying to work on creating as much value as possible. So stories, reels, pictures, there's lots that's going to be coming out. So that's the best place to come and follow me. Cool.
Team, thanks so much for tuning in for another episode of the Total Mental Performance podcast. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to get in touch with Luke, he's a lovely, lovely guy. Just drop a message. Infinite love. See you in the next episode.